Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
And now, please welcome at this time your hosts, Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau. You're listening to the next era of wrestling radio. This is WrestleRant Radio.
Happy Thanksgiving, folks, and welcome back to WrestleRant Radio for Thursday, November 28, 2024. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great holiday. As is always the case every single year, we drop the show on Thanksgiving, but we record the show prior to the holidays. So we are enjoying the holiday today, but that doesn't mean that we have any shortage of stuff to talk about on the show here today. So in addition to doing Survivor Series predictions for the pay-per-view coming up on Saturday with Mr. Marceau and discussing the events from Raw on Monday night, I'm also going to be giving my thoughts on the Full Gear pay-per-view from AEW from a couple of days ago. Not a full in-depth review. There were a lot of matches, a lot of stuff that went down, but I will give my brief overview of the pay-per-view and also share my exclusive interview with WWE Raw superstar and one of the combatants in the Women's WarGames match on Saturday, Raquel Rodriguez. She has a lot to say about her absence from TV, returning to TV, being paired up with Liv Morgan, and a whole lot more. Another fun chat with Raquel here on the show today, coming up momentarily. Don't want to waste any more time. I do have to mention these two quick things. The Pro Wrestling Tees Black Friday sale is ongoing right now at ProWrestlingTees.com. Head on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant and get one of our shirts for 20% off between now and Monday, December 2nd, ending at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Their sale is an annual thing. Happy to be a part of it for the first time. We just opened our store about a month or two ago. You can check out a shirt right now. We have two designs currently. A third one for the holiday should be up soon, hopefully before the sale ends on Monday. So head on over there now, buy a t-shirt, support the show, support the brand, support what I do, support WrestleRant by buying a t-shirt today. Also do want to mention this. On that same day, Monday, December 2nd, soon after the Black Friday sale ends for Pro Wrestling Tees, if not shortly beforehand or shortly thereafter, the 2024 Year in Review Awards, another annual tradition here for WrestleRant, for WWE and AEW, goes live on the website WrestleRant.com. Should have a link to vote somewhere there on the homepage, so just scroll down a little bit, click on the link, vote in each category. Men's Match of the Year, Women's Match of the Year, Men's Performer of the Year, Women, Female Performer of the Year, and so much more. Feud of the Year, Show of the Year. Whole lot of categories to vote on this year. We're going to be breaking down the results of said polls here on the show on December 26th, I believe. That's the Thursday after Christmas. We'll probably close the polls then, review the polls then. I'll probably end the polls on Christmas itself. I'll probably close the polls on Christmas, but we'll reveal the results on that Thursday, December 26th. So be sure to cast your votes starting on Monday. But before then, new episodes of WrestleRant Radio available every single Thursday, including on holidays, at WrestleRant.com, WrestleRantRadio.com, and all the usual podcast platforms. Rate the show, review the show, subscribe to the show, and never miss a new episode every single Thursday. Without further ado, folks, enjoy my exclusive interview with WWE Raw superstar and, as I mentioned earlier, one of the combatants in the Women's WarGames match on Saturday, Raquel Rodriguez. Graham GSM Matthews here, Bleach Report and WrestleRant before Survivor Series coming up this Saturday, November 30th, 6 p.m. on Peacock. We're talking to one of the Women's WarGames combatants here today, Raquel Rodriguez, back in WWE for the last couple of months. Raquel, how's it going?
It's going really good. I'm really excited about the team that we have stepping into this WarGames cage. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, we are a unit. Have you seen us work together?
It's a pretty dominant
awesome,
unit,
right?
to say the least, yeah.
Yeah, would you ever see a bunch of bad guys hang out and work like this? Never. This is a once in a lifetime. So I'm feeling very confident going into Vancouver this Saturday.
I mean, it wasn't that case a couple of weeks ago at Crown Jewel, Nia Jax, Tiffany on the other end, but you guys have since put those differences aside is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, we're smart. We're smart business women in a sense. Lots of businesses, sometimes you don't get along with your competition. But then when it is time to work together to defeat other competition, that's when things turn the tables a little bit and change. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're working together to beat a greater enemy, which is going to be in our favor pretty soon, I believe.
That's the only way you got to do it. And then you also have the experience too. I mean, a lot of these other women have been in women's war games, but you have also been in a war games match as well 4 years ago, NXT. So you're no stranger to the environment. And not only that, not only working with a team, obviously, but you won war games that year. You pinned the then NXT women's champion, Io Sky, who also finds herself on the other side of war games this year. So just your thoughts on how crazy that is, that not only you find yourself back in war games, but it's kind of the same situation 4 years later a little bit.
It really is. No, it really is. I thought about that the other day when I saw some old pictures of the war games that I won when I Tejana bombed Io through a ladder in the middle of the two rings, which was absolutely insane to me, but it almost like inspired me. You know what I mean? I'm like, ooh, this is like kind of the same mix of a team.
Yeah.
We're all bad guys again. Io's on that team. Ooh, and we have Rhea on that team too. Like, this is going to be, I don't want to like hint to them that like, hey guys, I know what's going to happen, but I have a good idea of what they're going to try and do. So I think like we're coming in very, very prepared. I'm very excited for our team. We communicate, and having Liv, this is Liv's first war game. So having her there is very exciting because even though she's new to the war game style, she's not new to street fights. She's not new to weapons. She's not new to cages. So I know my sister, she's just going to pick it up. And she's going to blend right in with the rest of us, and we're just going to dominate. We're just going to dominate.
What kind of tips can you provide for those, including Liv, that haven't been inside war games? I mean, this is basically a steel cage, but it's two of them. There's a lot going on at once, a lot of people entering at different intervals. As someone who's been in the match before and has won the match before, obviously without giving away your strategy, what tips can you provide to someone like Liv to kind of get used to the environment pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've kind of told her and kind of coached her on was, you know, Liv, you're a lot smaller than the rest of us. You're feisty, chiquita pero picosa. She's feisty, but she's little. But I think the biggest tip I could give for her was to not get caught. You know what I mean? We don't need her getting caught by someone and then, you know, I don't know how it could happen, but they trap her in a corner somewhere, or they try to put her in a trash can, because I'm sure she'll fit into one of those. I put Dakota in one of those not too long ago. So, you know, my biggest thing for her is like, you know, there's 5 of us, there's 5 of them. I'm going to keep protecting you no matter what, but I just need you to not get caught. Just don't get trapped.
And not only having competed inside war games as well, but like I said, you won for your team that year. That was what kind of kickstarted your success, not only as a tag team with Dakota at that time, but as a single star as well. It was that win over Io that kind of earned you that opportunity at the NXT Women's Championship that you held for a long time. So that was almost kind of like the beginning of your ascent in WWE that took you through NXT to where you are now on the main roster. Is this kind of like a full circle moment for you going into Saturday?
Oh, 100%. 100% it is. At the moment, of course, I'm not going after Liv's title. I would not do that to my sister. I'm here to help her keep that title as long as possible. And I know Nia is going to take her title back to SmackDown, but it definitely still fuels my fire to want to win this and to prove something against all of those champions on the other team, ex-champions on the other team. Io, Rhea, Bianca, Bayley, even Naomi too, you know what I mean? I really just have something to prove against them because I haven't worked Naomi that much. So I feel like she doesn't see me as too big of a threat yet. But this match in War Games is really when we're going to get a little taste of each other, and I'll show her who the real Raquel is. But I'm very excited. This could open many possibilities for how dominating we could be. I mean, now that we have the new IC title that just got introduced, that's a huge opportunity for anyone who gets the opportunity to wrestle in that tournament and win that title. So I'm just looking forward to us going out there and having a really great showing and then coming home victorious.
And just in general, I mean, you've been back now in WWE since Bad Blood, reuniting with Liv Morgan, the Women's World Champion, obviously, as you mentioned. How's it been like being back as you were gone for so long, or you were gone initially, left, or came back again now? How is it like being back in the fold and it just kind of, so much has changed in such a short period of time in WWE? Just for you in general, how's it been like being back in WWE, and was never coming back ever an option for you, something that was on the table as far as I may not be able to come back due to your health condition and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that crosses someone's mind, you know, as an athlete, or as a wrestler. If you get injured, you get sick, you definitely are put in a position where you're going with appearances, wrestling, TV, all these things. And then all of a sudden it just stops and time almost feels like it stands still for a second. And you're like, okay, well, I'm here, but what do I do? How do I find my purpose is really, I think, the key question that comes into your mind, because we can get very confused and think like, me, for instance, this has been my dream since I was a little girl. I've been watching my dad wrestle. I've been trying to wrestle my cousins. I've been trying to get into this since I was a little girl. And I've been fighting ever since the day I signed that contract to be here. I've been fighting every day to prove myself as a worthy contender, as a worthy WWE superstar for the company. And so for all of that to just get taken away, I almost felt lost, because it was like my identity, my purpose, my whole reason for working hard was just ripped from me. And now I can't work out. I can't strain myself too hard. I can't eat certain things. I can't, I don't want to be outside. I don't want people to see me this way, because I don't feel good and I feel gross. So yeah, I mean, you definitely have to think like, what if I just don't go back? What am I going to do next?
Yeah.
So I did have those thoughts running through my mind quite a bit, but I'm really, really, really grateful to my sister, Liv, who never stopped being there for me throughout any of the days. She messaged me, she checked up on me, even when she was dealing with her arm injury and, having all of the stress of her coming back and her wrestling Rhea and winning the women's title. It was a lot on her plate. And to know that she had all of that going on and still had the time to think about me, to reach out to me, to send me things, it made me feel like I found someone absolutely loyal to me and who's willing to be there for me. And that turned the page in my head. I thought, when I do get healthy, because I know I'm going to get healthy again, when I do step back into that ring, that is one person that I'm going to support 110%. And so coming back, there was no question about which side I was going to be on. It was always going to be Liv Morgan's side. And so I'm just so happy to be able to be back, to be in the full swing of things. It's funny because today is like the first time I've done Zoom interviews and I don't know how long, and I forgot where to find the link. I was like, oh my God, I forgot how to do this.
Yeah.
But it's so nice being on the road with my friends again. It's so nice hanging out with them, seeing them, being at work. I love showing up to Raw and SmackDown and just hanging out at TV all day. It's just one of the best things that I think we can do. And so from now on, I've told myself, I'm not taking any of these days for granted, any of these opportunities for granted. I know that this can go just as quickly as it comes. I've felt it. And I just want to take every day for what it is and be happy and enjoy it and be victorious at it too, because winning while you're doing it is even better.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, even before we had last seen you, it was inside Elimination Chamber before you had taken the time off for your health condition. And you went in there at the disadvantage, obviously dealing with that in the match, like a warrior getting through. And like everyone, like the match was great. And everyone was talking about the performances of everyone involved. But specifically you, Raquel, like the fact that you still went in there, did your thing, came out looking like a champ, dealing with what you were dealing with was pretty amazing. So like what's going through your head at that point? And also seeing the, positive reception online afterward and from peers and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was definitely a tough trip. Like I had just returned that Monday night. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't worn makeup in months. So I put makeup on that Monday night. I don't know if it was that. It could have been the wrestling or the jumping onto a plane to get to Australia right away. But my face on the plane just blew up. It decided to just get swollen like I had been stung by a million bees.
Yeah.
So the whole time on the plane, I'm popping Benadryls. I'm like, sleep it off. It'll go down. Just sleep. And finally, when we landed, I woke up and it was not gone. It was still very prominently there. So I did have to go see doctors and get a steroid shot. And I kind of hid out for most of the trip. As much as I wanted to see beautiful Australia and explore, I kind of hid myself in my hotel room because I just was not feeling great. I was red, I was rashy, it was dry, it was crusty, it was not cool. So finally day came of the show and we were still worried if I was going to get to perform or not. And I told myself, I did not fly all the way to Australia to not get in that chamber and perform. I'm not going to not do this. So I had to keep telling myself that whole day, I was like, we're going to do this. No makeup, red. We're going to go out there. We're going to perform and we're going to do it with bells ringing, we're going to go out there like nothing is absolutely wrong, because in my mind, once I step out of that curtain, nothing is wrong. So leading up to that, it was definitely hard because you see it's so hard being a girl, like I hate to be this girl. I've always been a tomboy, but you get so involved in like wanting the looks and the hair and the makeup and the cool eyeshadow to go with your cool outfit. And so I'm having to sit there and I'm like, oh, you guys look so great. You guys look so pretty. I'm just going to go over here and get distracted so I don't have to deal and watch this. And even going out in front of that many people and not everyone knowing what was going on, I knew there was going to be some backlash, which there was. There was a few people that were like, oh, Raquel's real brave for coming out here with no makeup. She looks like caca and blah, 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 you know? But nobody knew what was going on, which is fine. I just told myself one day my story will get out there. People will know. And hopefully it inspires other people, because it is so hard to have a skin condition, to have an autoimmune disease, and to not want to associate with anyone, to not want to be in public. You wake up and you look at yourself in the mornings and you're like, I don't even know who you are. I don't even recognize what's going on. Are you still Raquel under there? You know? But it was a really good, I think, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like a mind shift for me. It opened my eyes to a lot of things. Like, again, life is quick and things don't last forever. So things can come and things can go. And
sure.
And that's just how it is. And so I just plan on enjoying every minute until then. And so far, since I've been back, it has been so much fun. I absolutely love getting to be with Liv Morgan. We're on the road together. I get to see my friends, part of the makeup team, Judgment Day, being a part of that crew. Oh my gosh, like Dominic, Carlito, Finn, JD, they are hilarious. I love getting to be in the clubhouse. I feel like a whole new person. So it's been absolutely amazing since I've been back. And I'm just so glad to be in the full swing of things.
Yeah, and not only just being back, but like doing something so drastically different than what you were doing from the last time that we saw you. Like last time you were on your own, fan favorite, now on the other side of things. For the first time on the main roster, obviously not a role that you're completely unfamiliar with that you were doing in NXT, but being alongside Liv, you know, is something familiar, but being on the other end of things with, you know, kind of being the bodyguard for Liv Morgan, have you just gotten comfortable doing that role again, being the bad guy? Again, something you did for Dakota Kai many years ago. So it's a role that you're familiar with, and I feel like you kind of excel in as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like it's just like second nature. It's like my second nature to just be that girl. And it's funny because my sister, my real sister, and I, we used to joke that when we played basketball, we're 2 years apart. So we played high school basketball together. We did a lot of sports and things together. We were in high school together. And she was always the pot stirrer. She has a big mouth. She likes to run her little mouth. Yeah. And so she would always get trouble that would find her somehow. And it was just my natural instinct as the little big sister to go and help her out and like step in the way and stop the fight if I need to, or finish the fight if I need to. So it's just a role that I feel like I was naturally born into. And so being able to do that again with Liv, it just feels good. It feels natural. And it's been fun. Like, honestly, like I can't say that I've had a more fun time on main roster than I have these past couple months with Liv, these past couple weeks with her. It's just been a really, really great, and I just don't want it to end.
And it's just getting started. Obviously, it's just getting started. You guys have your sights set back on the women's tag team titles, obviously, at some point. Women's WarGames first, coming up on Saturday. But Raquel, it's great to have you back. Thanks so much for taking the time. Good luck on Saturday, and good luck with everything going forward, as well as you kind of look forward to the tag team titles and maybe the Women's World Championship at some point. But we'll deal with that when we deal with it, I guess.
Hey, there's the IC title. You know, I can go after that so that Judgment Day is carrying all the gold. We'll see.
That's true. Don't want to tease any tension. Go for the singles gold first, IC title. We look forward to that. Best of luck on Saturday, Raquel. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. See you guys on Saturday.
Big thanks to Raquel for the time. Always a treat to talk to. If you want to check out the article version of the interview you just heard, it should be available soon over at WrestleRant.com, and the video version over at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WrestleRant. So before we bring on Mr. Marceau to talk about Survivor Series, the Women's WarGames match, and everything else on that card, and for Monday's Raw and whatnot, do want to give my quick thoughts on the Full Gear pay-per-view from last weekend, which I thought overall was a very good show. Not AEW's best pay-per-view by any means of 2024. But for as lackluster as the weekly shows are for AEW, they do a very good job with the pay-per-views. I've said this for weeks now. In my various rants on Dynamite and how cold the product feels currently, they do a great job with the pay-per-views, and this show is no exception. Now, the overall pre-show, per usual, was pretty much throwaway, up until the Big Boom AJ, yes, that's his ring name, the Costco guy, AJ from TikTok, taking on QT Marshall. That match, honestly, was not only the sole highlight of the pre-show, the 0-hour pre-show, it was one of the, not the only highlights of the entire pay-per-view. I don't want to go that far, but it was easily when the crowd was at their hottest. And I was one of those people, when I first saw this shit on TikTok, Twitter, whatever, I mean, it started on TikTok, I believe. I'm not really on TikTok, I just saw it, on my Twitter timeline not too long ago, over the summer. I thought it was the dumbest fucking thing. It is pretty fucking stupid. They review, like, the cookies, the double chunk chocolate cookie from the Costco and the chicken bacon, shit like that. It's incredibly stupid, but they do have a social media following. AEW is wise to kind of tap into that and put them on the show. including, his son Big Justice and the Rizzler, who's his own character in his own right, this fucking, overweight 8-year-old kid. But, he's over. He was more over than 80% of the people on the show, if not more. So I don't know what that says about him. I don't know what that says about the company itself, the product, whatever. But it made for a fun time on the pre-show. This was better than it had any right to be. And we found out a couple of days later, actually, that AJ actually broke his foot in the match and still finished the match. So he has wrestling roots. He did wrestle on the indie scene like 20 plus years ago, came back for another match a few years ago, I believe. And so this was like his first real match in a very long time. And I thought he fared well for himself. And QT Marshall, no real fan of QT Marshall here, but I thought he did really well in his own right, in his role, in his respective role, and kind of hyping up AJ and making him look good, selling for AJ, eliciting heel heat, that sort of stuff. I thought he did a really good job. And the match itself, I honestly had a fun time with on the pre-show. The main card, I thought, had its, overall was very good. I wouldn't call this one of the more must-see shows of AEW that they've put on this year, as I mentioned earlier, but overall, I would call it a very good show. The tag team title match saw Private Party retain their championships in a fatal 4-way tag team match against the Acclaimed, the Outrunners, the Kings of the Black Throne, that being Malachi Black and Brody King of the House of Black. The match itself was pretty standard stuff. We've seen far better tag team matches in AEW. This was kind of just on the card to get the titles defended on the card, but it was fine for what it was. The thing worth noting from this match was the tension teased between the Acclaimed, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. We'll see where it goes. I wouldn't even necessarily break them up. I mean, the team itself needs some sort of a change, so whether it's a split or a heel turn, I would... heel turn would be fine too. They would pretty much be in the same spot, mind you. I don't know how much more interesting they would be as heels compared to as baby faces. They were heels for a couple of years before they turned babyface in 2022. But something's got to change. Whether it be a split, a heel turn, whatever, kicking Billy Gunn to the curb, the whole scissoring shtick got old a very long time ago. So I thought that was a positive, refreshing change of pace to see them actually tease something different. We'll see where they go with that. MJF beating Roderick Strong, probably the least important MJF pay-per-view match I have ever seen. It was a well-worked match. It was perfectly fine for what it was. This probably should have opened the show, to be perfectly honest with you. I know MJF opened the show back at Forbidden Door. He faced Roosh on that show. That was a better match than this. At least the crowd was more into it because MJF was in his hometown of Long Island. This crowd could not have given two fucks. Like, MJF had to get on the mic before the match started to kind of get the crowd booing him because he got a very positive reaction when he came out, but he's supposed to be the heel in the storyline. So far, he's not, and he hasn't really come across like one, but he's supposed to be portrayed as the heel in the story. So he had to get on the mic, shit on the crowd, do the typical bashing of the local, town, whatever thing. His usual shtick. More than usual, though, did he ham it up. And the actual match was fine. MJF winning decisively as he should have before he could attack Roderick afterward. I think he actually did attack Roderick, and then Adam Cole came out with the rest of the Undisputed Kingdom. So again, Adam Cole, just a terrible fucking friend, apparently. It's hard to care about any of this. I know they're saving MJF and Adam Cole for probably World's End next month. And I thought that was a smart call because MJF wasn't on TV to kind of build up the match and, have those promo exchanges, discussing their feud, discussing the bad blood. They only did the pre-tape shit, which was kind of lame. So this was fine, but it was a glorified Dynamite match, glorified Dynamite main event. It wasn't anything special. Didn't really need to be on the show, but I understand wanting to get MJF on the show. So whatever. Mercedes Moné having probably one of, if not her best match in all of AEW so far, against Chris Statlander for the AEW TBS Championship. I thought they had a very, very good match. Mercedes hasn't had all duds for matches in AEW. The Britt Baker match was a dud. The Sheeta match was disappointing back at All Out. So she really hasn't had like a truly great match in a while. Probably since the Stephanie Vakir match back at Forbidden Door, for the where she defended the TBS Championship and won the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. So it's been a while, but she reminded people of what she's capable of here. And as they wrote the other day for Bleacher Report, I feel like more great matches like this and strong showings for Moné will go a long way, no rhyme intended, in getting her kind of like aura back. And I know that word aura is overused nowadays with social media and whatnot, but she's lost a lot of that luster that she once had in AEW. And just in general, she really hasn't felt special since she arrived in AEW. She did initially for a few months, And then the booking out of the gate kind of sucked, and the matches haven't always been great. Her character / mic work has been subpar. So more stuff like this is what makes her special. Give us more of these, please. Give us more matches like this. Statlander also having a stellar showing. She had a great match last month or 2 months ago, rather, with Willow Nightingale at All Out. That was back when she was a heel, turning back into a babyface soon after for no real fucking reason at all. But we did get a great match out of this, and I thought it was really good for what it was. Jay White, I thought, would lose to Adam Page on the show. I thought Page would avenge the loss and, get back on track after beating Swerve Strickland at All Out a few months ago. But no, Jay White went, I don't want to say 2-0 against White or against Adam Page, because he did lose to him in the Owen Hart Cup a few months back. He's also beaten him before in Ring of Honor or New Japan or in, I think they had a match on Dynamite about a year ago as well, and he won that too. But this was another really good match. I thought the other match they had at Wrestle Dream was better, just because of the hotter crowd and it kicked off the show. But this was good. I enjoyed this for what it was as well. And White went over clean decisively, which would make sense with what we saw at the end of the show. Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay had the best match of the entire night. I was not a fan of the constant kickouts and even the Tombstone Piledriver being used as like a setup move. He hit that to Ospreay on the outside on top of steel steps. And I think he pinned him or hit another move after that in the ring and only got a 2 count. That was fucking stupid. The rest of the match I thought was really, really good. Fletcher winning clean was the real top takeaway for me. It would have been very easy for Fletcher to cheat to win, or Ospreay, even at the very least, which is what I expected, Ospreay to win with Fletcher making him look great in defeat, a strong showing in defeat. But that can only go so far. When you've had that happen in almost every single one of your matches, and you can never really win when it matters most, but always look good in defeat, you're just a loser at that point. So at some point, you gotta win. And he won here. He won without any interference whatsoever. Don Callis was at ringside. No screwdriver bullshit. No interference from other members of the group. Nothing. Fletcher just won decisively as he should have. I thought that was a big win for Kyle Fletcher. A real, coming out party, so to speak. Hopefully, if they can follow up on it, that's the key. I know he's in the Continental Classic. More on that later. I don't think he's going to win that. Maybe maybe him and Ospreay run it back in the finals of the Continental Classic, and that's where Ospreay gets his win back. But this was a massive win for Fletcher for now, so I thought that was really, really good. This wasn't a match, but they did have a champagne toast with Mariah May, the AEW Women's World Champion, and Mina Shirakawa. And Mariah, as we all kind of expected, was about to turn on Mina. Mina saw it coming, or at least dodged it, and then tackled her through a table. So I thought it was a nice twist, because everyone expected May to attack Mina, and then for that to be it. But Mina was actually smart and dodged it. I don't know if it was a case of her being smart, or Mariah May just being stupid. She wanted to wait until Mina turned around to attack her with the beer bottle instead of just hitting her from behind like she should have. That was dumb. But this does set up a match between them for the Women's World Championship at some point, probably at World's End, so I like that a lot. We finally have a new AEW TNT champion in Daniel Garcia. A good match here, more storytelling based. The crowd wasn't really overly into it until the end, but they were behind Garcia throughout. A great win for Garcia, finally a singles champion in AEW. I know he was a Ring of Honor Pure champion, but, that doesn't really mean much in the overall grand scheme of things in AEW. So I thought this was good. The right outcome, too, because you could have had Perry win, continue the feud, have Garcia win it at a later date. That would have been dumb. He was another guy a lot like Fletcher who had to win when it mattered most. And he finally did at the pay-per-view on Saturday, so I thought that was well done. Konosuke Takeshita beating Ricochet to retain the AEW International Championship was a good match, not a great match. It was fun, but it was far from the best match of the entire show. This kind of felt like it was just there. And I don't know if it was a case of the crowd being exhausted because it was so late in the show or what. They just added this to the pay-per-view a few days ago on Twitter. I know they've been building to it for a while, but they should have announced it earlier than they did. This did mark Ricochet's first clean singles loss, his first singles loss at all in AEW, actually. So we'll see where he goes from here, aside from the Continental Classic coming up, did kick off last night, actually, on Dynamite. A good win for Takeshita, though. Bobby Lashley beating Swerve Strickland in a very good match. Bobby Lashley's win was decisive. And I had seen some comments about Swerve being made to look, weak in defeat with the way that he was portrayed and tapped out or passed out quickly, which I would agree with. But beyond that, though, he doesn't really lose a whole lot. He is a former AEW World Champion. He's still really over. Now, he has lost. This did mark his third straight loss on pay-per-view. He lost to Bryan Danielson at All In. He lost to Adam Page at All Out. He lost this match. He didn't wrestle at WrestleDream, so this was his third pay-per-view match since All In, and he lost this one too. So at some point he will have to battle back and kind of avenge the loss. He probably will at some point. Hopefully not at the expense of Bobby Lashley, but I thought this was more important for Bobby to win his pay-per-view in-ring debut for AEW than it was for Swerve to win here and kind of avenge the losses from pay-per-view in recent months. So I thought this was really good, though. And then the main event, Jon Moxley beating Orange Cassidy to retain the AEW World Championship. They had a very good match. They've always had great chemistry. The build was very boring, very bland, very generic. Viewers, I don't think, had any reason to think that Cassidy would actually win, and he did not. The crowd did get really into some of the near falls down the stretch. They were really into Cassidy nearly winning at a few different points. It did not happen. We had more the Death Riders interference down the stretch, and that was how Jon Moxley won, with an assist from Wheeler Yuta. So the finish was lame, but the actual match was really good. It wasn't like pay-per-view main event quality, but I thought it was a very good match. Moxley, as we all expected, still the AEW World Champion. So there was a whole lot of fucking chaos that closed the show, with Christian Cage attempting to cash in his guaranteed title shot with an assist from Adam Page. And that did seem random. Like, why the fuck is Adam Page out here? And it was because, I guess, Adam Page, like Christian Cage, had helped Adam Page a while ago with something. They had like a soft alliance a few weeks ago on Dynamite. Blink and you missed it, I know. But they were briefly aligned at one point on Dynamite coming into this pay-per-view. So maybe the deal was that Page, if he helped Christian win the championship, if Page helped Cage, then Cage would give Page a shot at the AEW World Championship, and that did not happen. The attack was thwarted. You had Darby out there, just a whole brawl that broke out, so it was complete fucking chaos. Jay White, breaking up the attempted cash-in. So Jay White might be next in line for a shot at the AEW World Championship, coming off his 2 straight wins over Adam Page. I think Jay White and Jon Moxley is a really good match to do for the World's End pay-per-view. I don't think Jay White's winning, obviously, but that's a good spot for him to be in. And then you also have the chaos that closed the show, with Darby Allin attempting to kill the Death Riders in the car, which apparently was a stunt he did himself, which was just stupid, but what else is new? I wasn't a fan of the finish of the show. I thought it was kind of underwhelming. They had a lot going on, granted, but it felt like the ending of a Dynamite and less of a pay-per-view, if that makes sense. And that's just me not really feeling the whole Death Riders storyline. It's just been one fucking bust for me so far. One giant bust. I just do not care. They're trying with it. They're doing something different, I guess. None of it has been overly interesting or intriguing to me at all. But it's certainly a storyline, if nothing else. As far as the Continental Classic is concerned, it did kick off on Wednesday's Dynamite. I am recording this before Dynamite, so I don't know what the results of those matches are, if anyone's replaced or anything. There was the belief that Speedball Mike Bailey from TNA might be in the Continental Classic. He's done in TNA, but then I saw an additional report after I recorded last week that indicated his deal isn't actually up until the end of the year, which isn't only like a month, but he is done with TNA and they're not using him again until he's, out of the company. So they had Trent Seven turn on him, and I guess that was the last appearance that he's going to make in TNA. So he's not ready to debut in AEW quite yet, which is why he's not in the Continental Classic. But they do have a great lineup of people, though, in this tournament. In the Gold League, we've got Darby Allin, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Brody King, and Juice Robinson. And in the Blue League, we have Kazuchika Okada, the reigning defending Continental Champion, Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia, Mark Briscoe, Shelton Benjamin, and the Beast Mortos. Now, from an in-ring standpoint, this will be a great tournament. A lot of great wrestlers here. A lot of great matches to be had with Okada and Benjamin, Will Ospreay and Claudio, which we've seen before, I believe. But, Ospreay and Ricochet again. Okada and Garcia, which I believe happened on Dynamite last night on Wednesday. Fletcher and Okada. A lot of great matches to be had here. My issue, a lot like last year, the negative of this tournament, is that there's a lot of fucking mid-carders that are not going to win this thing. I can guarantee you right now, Brody King is not winning. Juice Robinson is not winning. Darby Allin could win. I'm not really sure why Allin would be in this thing. I mean, I guess they're not going to have him in the world title picture for a while, so I guess that's why. I mean, Allin being in it, Castagnoli isn't really like a top-tier talent, I mean, in terms of the way he's portrayed, but, in the ring he is, so I guess I understand why he'd be in it. Ospreay is perfect. Ricochet makes sense. So I like the Gold League more than the Blue League. Shelton Benjamin is not fucking winning. The Beast Mortos is not fucking winning. Mark Briscoe, again, who I think may have won one match last year, is not fucking winning. And Garcia, who just won the TNT title, is also probably not winning. So I think we're looking at a final of Fletcher and Ospreay, like I said earlier during my Full Gear review. And that's fine. I could see Ospreay winning the championship. Okay. I mean, I don't give a shit about the Continental Championship. Maybe that could then set up an Ospreay-Okada match, because Okada didn't make it to the finals. Or they could do Ospreay and Okada in the finals. That would be fine too. As far as who wins the overall thing, I think we're looking at Will Ospreay. Okada could win the whole thing and retain the title, but that's not really interesting. I think it's going to be Will Ospreay as your new AEW Continental Champion by the end of this, coming up at World's End. But we shall soon see. As the Continental Classic plays out, I'll give my thoughts most likely in the weeks to come as they play out on Dynamite, and give my ultimate prediction for who's going to win the whole thing as we get closer to World's End next month. So that's going to do it for my AEW thoughts. We now move on to Survivor Series predictions and a Raw review briefly from Monday night with Mr. Marceau. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing well. I told you earlier that I am all prepped and ready for Thanksgiving football, even though I have no idea who's going to be playing on Thursday, but I will be seated and watching if I'm not eating. I mean, maybe both. We'll see. But we got a little bit to discuss here today before Survivor Series, a Thanksgiving week tradition, of course, coming up on Saturday, November 30th. A lot to discuss on that front coming up in a little bit as far as the matches they have advertised. They announced 2 more matches on Monday's Raw. But what they also announced on Monday's Raw, the big New Day anniversary celebration is happening this coming Monday. Today is actually, not as we speak, but on Thursday when this goes up. Today is the actual 10-year anniversary of the New Day's debut in WWE on SmackDown. I believe that's when it aired and wasn't when it was taped, because that was back when, SmackDown was a tape show on Tuesdays. But they're celebrating the 10-year anniversary coming up on Monday's Raw. Kofi and Xavier, though, one of the best parts of Raw, in addition to hyping up Survivor Series and all the WarGames stuff and whatnot, one of the best parts of that show was the Kofi and Xavier Woods exchange backstage, where they just fucking ripped into each other for like 5 minutes, and they're like, all right, see you on Monday at the anniversary episode. So, first of all, before I even get into what's going to be going on Monday night, coming up in a few days, your thoughts on what we saw on Monday, and your opinion, if it's a lot like mine, if it's among the best things that this group has done, at least in the last 5 years.
I mean, I know when Xavier came back as like King Xavier, that was a little bit different, but been doing pretty much the same stuff in the last like 4 to 5 years. So this is good. It will definitely lead to some kind of angle, I assume, on Raw. I mean, I think we know what's going to happen, but maybe they'll swerve us. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's definitely the most interested I'm in the group that I've been in a while.
Yeah, I mean, if they're building the entire episode around the New Day's anniversary, which they should, it's a very big deal. They have to close the show, and they got to close the show on a big note. Now, in the graphic, they showed the quick video package hyping up the episode. They showed Big E a lot, because obviously he was part of the New Day for close to 10 years before his injury, and he has not appeared on WWE TV since then, aside from pre-show appearances on the panel and whatnot. But in the ring, on the stage, coming out for like an appearance, he hasn't appeared at all. He wasn't in the graphic for the show, but it's safe to say he'll be there. Is that like enough of a hook, like to close the show with, like where he comes out and gets them back on the same page? Does he come out and announce his return to the ring? Does he get attacked by one of these two? Like, where do you think this is going on Monday?
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like at this point, if he hasn't come back yet, I don't think he's coming back to wrestle. I think there's a better chance that, like you said, one of them attacks him, and then that kind of like springs it. But I just, at this point, I don't think he's coming back to wrestle, so I think him getting attacked is probably a better chance than him coming back.
Are you in the mindset that they are indeed splitting, or do you think they swerve us with like all this split talk and they actually just end up, staying a unit? Like I said, I just feel like that would be a lame ending to the show where Big E comes out, which is a great return. It's a great pop and whatnot. But then he just gets them back on the same page, and that's the end of the show. Because what's the end game there? They regain the tag team titles at some point, and we're back to where we started, back at square one with these guys, where Big E's not even really on the show. He's still not wrestling. It's Kofi and Xavier as a tag team, and nothing's really changed, and all of this tension was for nothing. Or do they actually go through with the split? And are you optimistic if they do go through with the split that they'll handle it properly, that we get a proper program between Kofi and Xavier, that they actually utilize both guys as single stars. I mean, Kofi's been a multi-time IC champion, US champion, WWE champion, of course. Xavier, the only thing he's done on his own is win King of the Ring, and even with that, he was still with the New Day 3 years ago. So what are your expectations if they go through with the split on Monday night?
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess it really depends on who goes heel and who goes face. I feel like seemingly it seems like it's going to be Kofi, going to be babyface, and Xavier would be the heel, but after Raw, like, Kofi was kind of laying into him, and I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of up in the air on if they actually treat them right. Like, I think they'll definitely do a program, but, like, besides that, neither guy I would see at, like, a main event level, maybe at, like, IC United States level, but with someone, like, a group like that, I feel like it would have to be built pretty good to get there. And, like, once you split them up, I feel like it'd be hard to see them pushing either of them on their own. So, I feel like I don't think they're not going to split up. It'd be kind of weird to, like, kind of tease and then not do it, because at this point I feel like the group kind of needs it. They're kind of, like we've said, they've been doing the same shtick for forever. I feel like they kind of need something new, but I don't also trust that they're going to really do a lot with them once they split them up. So It's kind of like a catch-22. I think they need to split up, but I don't trust them, like, booking-wise, to make either guy, like, seem very important after a breakup.
Yeah, I mean, they're not headed towards either of the World Championships, but I feel like the best story to tell, like, they've been teasing the Woods heel turn. If they go through with that, I'm perfectly fine with it. I want to see a split regardless. I'm just, like, a pessimist that way. I want to see some negativity. I want to see some bad blood. I need to see a split here, not them get back on the same page, happy-go-lucky, same old New Day. Who gives a shit? I think it would make more sense after Monday's Raw, like you said, to turn Kofi heel instead of Xavier. Kofi's the more established of the two. And whatever the end game is, like with the babyface getting their big victory over the heel or whatever, I feel like it would mean more for Xavier to beat Kofi and prove to him that he does have what it takes to be a successful single star. Again, probably not winning a world championship, but I could see Xavier, if they pushed him properly, maybe winning the IC title at some point, a lot like Jey Uso did post-tag team with the Usos, or the United States Championship on SmackDown if he went over to SmackDown. So, this is probably whatever we see on Monday. Do you see this story being the road to WrestleMania? Triple H is a big long-term booker, sometimes to his own detriment. I could see this being a story that they wrap up at Mania with like a New Day triple threat. If Big E were to come back, and I'm not convinced he is, but even if he's not back, we're like he's the special guest referee, and we get Kofi and Woods at WrestleMania. I feel like they both deserve a big WrestleMania match. Kofi's gotten one. He won the WWE title at Mania in 2019, but Woods has never gotten a singles match in Mania, and that could be it. So whatever we see on Monday, do you see that kicking off whatever the road to WrestleMania will involve?
Yeah, I think depending on, like I said, whatever way they go, whoever is the heel, basically just destroy the other one. They're kind of off TV for a while, return to Rumble, and lead right into Mania. So I think it's kind of the start to leading to a WrestleMania storyline. Like I said, maybe either a triple threat or Big E's special guest referee, something like that. But I think all roads lead to WrestleMania. I
agree. Another notable thing from Monday's Raw, they unveiled the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Obviously a belt that was not necessary when they just unveiled the Women's United States Championship, but the fact that the United States Championship was called the United States Championship kind of told you it wasn't outright confirmed, but we kind of assumed it would be brand specific and that they would introduce a women's IC title at some point. And that's exactly what they did. I just didn't think it would be so soon. I thought they would get like the U.S. women's title tournament out of the way, then focus on a women's IC title tournament. Adam Pearce did say, like, they filmed the segment before Raw and then aired it during Raw, which was weird, or they like showed a snippet of it during the show in like a video package, which was odd. But he did say during the announcement that a tournament to crown the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Championship will kick off next week on Raw. And I would imagine they're probably doing that because they want the finals to go down on that first Netflix Raw on January 6th. So that's probably why they're doing it concurrently with the Women's US Championship Tournament. That one's wrapping up at Saturday night's main event in a couple of weeks. But first of all, as far as the belt itself, your thoughts on like the fact they even introduced it at all at this point, before we even got a Women's United States Championship, and the design itself. I think it looks better than the Women's United States Championship, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they announced it. Like you said, it was like a pre-recorded thing that he did in the ring, and then they kind of announced it later on in the show. And also, I kind of thought it was weird that they announced, like, they're kind of like in the middle of the United States women's one. I guess it's going to end at the winnings or the the last match is going to be at Saturday night main event. So it kind of makes a little sense there. And like you said, maybe they want the finals to be on that first Raw, so kind of starting a little bit later. But I don't know. At first I thought I was like, oh, they're just going to do one, because I feel like we saw people from Raw were like tweeting like, oh, I'd love to be the first United States champion. And then when it came out, they're all SmackDown opponents. So, I mean, I like the belt. I think it looks a little bit better than the United States one. I mean, it's the same belt as the Intercontinental, but I just like the way that the new Intercontinental title looks with like the blue in it. But I think, like you said, I think we'll see. I mean, I think one title was fine enough, but we'll see what happens when they have two now. So I think the belt looks good, and I think the finals will probably be that first Raw on Netflix.
I think that would make the most sense. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you when we discussed the Women's United States Championship 2 weeks ago. You know exactly what's coming here. Who is the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion? Who from the Raw roster do you think would make the most sense to win that championship first?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not Natalia.
We'll cross his name off list.
Literally, I saw so many people saying like Natalia.
Absolutely not, bro. Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
It's like tough because, like I said, I feel like with the SmackDown one, I was like, I want someone established. But then with Raw, like, I don't think it could actually like. There really isn't that too many established people. Like, I hope like Becky. Like, I don't think she needs to like come back and win it. Like, no, thank you. But besides that, there really isn't too many established women on Raw. Like, maybe Io, but she's kind of. I think she has a title shot against Liv coming up.
She does.
Like, she wouldn't really make sense. I mean, I'd probably go with Lyra. I feel like it makes probably the most sense right now. I feel like besides like Liv and Io and Rhea, she's probably the next best over. I saw people saying like Dakota Kai. I mean, maybe. But I'm gonna go with Lyra. I think it makes sense, and I don't know. I like it.
No, I like the Lyra pick as well. I totally agree with the mindset, because I was adamant when we first spoke about the United States Championship that it should be someone new. It shouldn't be someone that's already held the SmackDown Women's or the WWE Women's Championship, whatever. But you know what? You turned me around on the idea. I'm totally fine with Bayley winning it, Naomi winning it. Those are probably the top two picks. I know Bayley's facing Chelsea Green on SmackDown in a couple of weeks in the semifinals. We're still getting the quarterfinals right now. It will not be Jade Cargill. She was taken out of the tournament, which we'll get to in a little bit in the Survivor Series stuff. But I'm fine with either Bayley or Naomi winning on the SmackDown side. I would not have two established stars win both belts out of the gate. I think on the Raw side, Lyra would make the most sense. Zelina Vega's a fine pick. I don't think she's quite there yet to win the mid-card belt, maybe down the road. Maybe not as the first champion. And if it's not Lyra, Natalia, no. Rhea Ripley, I would not. She's still not done with Liv anyway. Io would have been perfect, but Io is, like you said, the number one contender for the Women's World Championship. Hey, anyone but Pure Fusion Collective, right? I mean, or maybe you're down for that as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm definitely not down for that. I mean, because I feel like they're all equal, so then it'd be weird if one of them won it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like Sonya's technically like the lead, but I feel like over-wise, they're all kind of the same. Like over, so I wouldn't want one of them winning it.
Yeah, no, I think Lyra certainly makes the most sense. I think that's a great idea. One last thing from Raw on Monday night: the World Tag Team titles for only the second time in the last 5 months were defended, and they did not change hands either. I thought there was a good chance that the Judgment Day might finally lose those belts to the War Raiders. They didn't even do that. The Judgment Day retained again. It's probably going to be another 2 or 3 months before we get another defense. But they retained once again. I need your thoughts. Like, the Raw Tag Team division has a lot of teams. I think the SmackDown side of things, they've done a better job of creating tension and stories there with, like, DIY, Ciampa getting pissed and the whole DIY thing. Motor City Machine Guns being brought in, immediately champions, I thought was cool. The Profits are getting more aggressive. So they kind of have something going on the SmackDown side of things. On the Raw side, it's just like a basic match. Judgment Day wins again. I have no idea why they still hold those belts. Completely pointless. And even worse than that, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people have realized this. We have not gotten a WWE PLE with a tag team title match on it. For the men. For the women, there's been quite a few. For the men, we have not had a men's tag team title match on pay-per-view since Mania, where they split the belts up in that tag team ladder match. But yeah, we have 2 sets of men's tag team titles, and neither have been defended on a pay-per-view. Does that seem as much of a problem to you as it has been to me in the last couple of months? Or like, what are your thoughts on the current state of the tag team division in WWE as far as the representation is concerned?
It's pretty rough right now. I mean, I think you said it best when he said they haven't been defended on PLE since WrestleMania, but I guess I would just counter, like, do you think, like, there really hasn't been a story good enough to even defend them on pay-per-view.
True.
So, like, it's kind of like catch-22. I mean, same with the women, but I don't know. I feel like with the PLEs, they're just like, oh, just roll the women out there. Like, we have, like, multi-woman tag matches all the time on these PLEs, especially, like, the overseas shows. But I just feel like they just haven't done a good enough job with the tag teams. They have to, like, build a compelling story that I'd even want to see it on pay-per-view. Not like the women really have either, but, I mean, the men, I think SmackDown's doing a better job. Like you said, like, Street Profits seem like they're coming around. Motor City Machine Guns, Ciampa and Gargano. I know, what's their faces? Pretty Deadly's on SmackDown as well. Raw, I mean, could have sworn War Raiders are going to win right here, and then they didn't. So,
yeah.
I mean, I thought that was, like, clearly we're going to get a new direction, but belts are still on the Judgment Day. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they said they're going to put all the, like, once they split the belts, I figured, like, oh, they're going to have to put more emphasis on the tag team division, and I feel like it's gone way downhill since. So, I mean, it's kind of like I said, like, I think they need to defend them more, but they also then build better stories to, like, make me care to want to see them defended more.
I think you make a great point. I think it's not just the fact that they're not on the pay-per-views. They're not on the pay-per-views because there's no compelling stories, and I guess that's also part of the problem is that there's just belts being defended. On the SmackDown side of things, they have improved with that. The SmackDown Tag Team division has been far better than Raw since WrestleMania, since they split up the belts again. But the stories are still lacking. I think my other point is that they had 4 matches announced for Survivor Series after they announced that Intercontinental Championship match. And they had a 5th spot open, and they weren't just going to do 4 matches. I guess they could have with the 2 WarGames, but they wanted a 5-match card. Unless they announce a 6th one, which I don't think they will, it's going to be a 5-match card coming up on Saturday. They announced out of nowhere during Monday's Raw, LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. Now, it's not completely random. I know Nakamura returned 2 weeks ago and attacked Knight. He attacked him last week on SmackDown. They'll probably have a segment this Friday on SmackDown. But it feels like that feud is just getting started. So if the excuse is, oh, well, we can't do DIY versus the Profits versus Machine Guns or any combination of that match because the feud is just getting started, then what the fuck is the excuse for Knight Nakamura, which I think will be a good match, and I'm all for Knight getting pay-per-view time and the United States Championship getting exposure on a pay-per-view, but it's the same excuse, though, where that feud just started and they're putting that on a pay-per-view and not the tag teams. I'm starting to think the tag team division is allergic to the PLEs, because at this point there's no excuse as to why they're not getting on the PLEs.
Like I said, I think it just comes to the fact there's just not a compelling story enough to put them on there. Like, it's not like Knight and Nakamura is lighting the world on fire, or will, but at least it has a little bit more, like, something to it than, like I said, what are you going to do? Like, Judgment Day, and I don't know, I just feel like the tag teams, they need a little bit of freshening up of. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're also booking the attractions for these shows, right? I mean, War Raiders versus Judgment Day is not an attraction. That's not a pay-per-view. I mean, it could be a pay-per-view match if they put in the effort to get the match over, which they didn't. But I think the SmackDown side of things, that could have easily been a pay-per-view match. It was right fucking there, and they still did not do it. So, hey, whatever. Better luck at the Royal Rumble, I suppose. And if they're defended on the Saturday Night's Main Event special in a couple of weeks, that's nice and all, but that's not a PLE. That's a NBC special, which is cool. Like, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens will not be happening at Survivor Series. We found that out on SmackDown. That's going to be headlining Saturday Night's Main Event, I believe, for the championship. It might be a non-title match. I don't remember, but
it's for the title.
It is for the title, okay. Your thoughts on that being left off the show? Because, again, when we discussed it a couple of weeks ago, I thought that was ridiculous to not have that championship defended on another pay-per-view for, like, the 3rd or 4th straight show. But they're, again, not defending it at Survivor Series, and Cody Rhodes won't even be on Survivor Series. So, your thoughts on that?
I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. If they're going to do it 2 weeks later, I mean, like I said, I guess it's not technically a PLE, but it's a big show, so if that's going to headline, I mean, I have no problems with that. And like I said, it's just 2 weeks away. It's not like we have to wait another full month or two for Cody to defend it. Like, it's just right around the corner.
Yeah. So, it's better than nothing. I mean, he hasn't not defended the championship on TV since that.
Because also you got to realize so if he didn't defend it at Saturday Night Main Event, the next time he could defend it's the Royal Rumble, which is February 1st. Like, it'd be another legit 2 months till he defends it.
That would be fucking ridiculous. I mean, obviously, he can defend it on a SmackDown.
I guess like a PLE, it'd be 2 full more months that he wouldn't defend on a PLE.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, he has not defended it on a PLE since SummerSlam, because he didn't defend it at Bad Blood, Crown Jewel, or Survivor Series. And he hasn't defended the championship in general on TV since SmackDown, or since September in SmackDown when he defended it against Solo Sikoa inside the steel cage. So, I mean, that's a long time in between title defenses for a lot of fans, myself included, that were complaining, oh, Roman's not around enough. I mean, Cody's on the show, but he's not defending the belt. Like, do you see that as a problem, or would you rather, is it okay that he doesn't defend it every month?
I think it's fine.
It's one of those things where if the story makes sense, then I suppose I would still like to see more consistent championship defenses. I think you could have just crapped on the whole crown jewel shit, gotten rid of that, defended it on that show, and that would have been a nice title defense in between the September one and the December one, but they didn't do that, so it is what it is. But as far as Survivor Series is concerned on Saturday, we're talking a lot about it here. They announced the full match card for Saturday night, so barring any changes between now and Saturday, here are the 5 matches that we're going to be getting on that show, including the aforementioned LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. Nakamura returning 2 weeks ago, attacking and targeting Knight, doing so on SmackDown again last week. So pretty simple story here. Knight defended the championship at Crown Jewel a couple of weeks ago successfully. He's had a couple of matches on SmackDown, beating Escobar and Berto, among other people, to retain that championship. He's been a great fighting champion since SummerSlam. Does Knight walk out of here still United States champion, Mr. Marceau, or does Nakamura win the belt back for the first time in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep the belt still on Knight. Like, I like what they do with Nakamura, but I feel like they just do this every year. They dust him off, put him in a title feud, he loses, and then we move on. So I think it's a nice little notch in the belt, but I mean, you got to keep the belt on Knight here.
Well, does the story continue? Because it just got started. Like, he was gone for 6-7 months. Nakamura gets brought back, and maybe even longer than that, actually. But he gets brought back, goes after the championship. Like, is it a clean win for Knight, or could you see this being a situation where it ends in a non-finish to set up a rematch for down the road?
I could see, Knight beating him clean and then, Nakamura, getting him with the mist or something after. You would laugh, but I could so see
No,
it.
I laugh because that's so true, though. But, I mean, Nakamura takes so many losses. They want us to see him as a threat. He's not a fucking threat if he just keeps losing. And I don't want him to win. Do you want to see Nakamura win the belt out of this feud, or would you rather just see it kept on Knight?
I'd way rather see it kept on Knight.
That's what I'm saying. I think anytime Nakamura has had a mid-card title on the main roster, it's been he just never, you talk about lack of defenses. He hasn't defended that. He never really defended that United States Championship when he had it. When he was IC champion, he didn't really defend it. I'd rather just see the belt kept on Knight. So I am curious to see what they do here, but I do think they can go out there and have a good match, and Knight's over enough where the crowd should be into the match regardless. The other mid-card championship, the Intercontinental Championship, will also be defended on the pay-per-view coming up on Saturday. Braun Breaker taking on Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser in a triple threat. Really not much of a story here. Breaker and Sheamus was interrupted by Kaiser a couple of weeks ago. Kaiser and Breaker on Raw was interrupted by Sheamus, so pretty, simplistic booking here. I think Breaker retains. He just got the belt back from Jay about a month or so ago. So I don't think he drops the belt this quickly, again, after losing it quickly the first time. But I do think this could be a potential show stealer. Are you with me on Breaker retaining, or do you see this going a different way?
I feel like he kind of got to keep the belt on Breaker. I think it would be kind of silly for him to lose it again. But with the triple threat, I feel like it adds a little bit of, he maybe loses and he doesn't actually get pinned. I guess it really depends on what they do with Mania, too. And Gunther will most likely still be the champion going into Mania. They turn Breaker babyface, and he goes after Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel the triple threat's telling me he's gonna not win, but then I also feel like he should win. I'll say... I feel like he'd look like a fucking idiot if he lost again. I'm going to go with Breaker. I don't know. I'm psyching myself out. I feel like he'd look so stupid if he lost the belt again.
No, I agree.
So quickly. So I guess if he doesn't get pinned, but then they'll probably do a rematch and he loses again. I'll go with Breaker.
Yeah, no, I'm going Breaker too here. I just don't think he can lose it that quickly twice. If he lost it that quickly the first time, and he did, I think that's fine, but I don't think you should have him be losing that. We don't need to go back to the Attitude Era where we have 30-day championship reigns for the IC title every month. So I would keep the belt on him at least through WrestleMania. What do you think the end game is for Braun Breaker as champion? Is it Sheamus? Could you see a situation here where Sheamus does not get pinned and they save Sheamus and Breaker the rematch for Mania? Is it Breakker and Goldberg? Goldberg's not beating him for that belt, obviously, but you could do that match at Mania. Is it a returning Ilya Dragunov? Like, is there anyone on the Raw roster currently that you would like to see be the one to dethrone Braun Breaker as that Intercontinental Champion?
That's a great question. I mean, Sheamus would be nice. I think he's never won it, so it'd be nice for Sheamus to finally get that. No to Goldberg, no thank you. Ilya, I mean, it really depends on when he comes back. I'm pretty sure he's out for a full year, so it might be some longer time. Like I said, it kind of just depends on what they do with him for Mania. I mean, he's going after Gunther. He'd probably have to drop the belt before that. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have been pushing Ludwig a little bit. Not sure exactly if that's maybe how you set that up, but I mean, Sheamus seems, like I said, these two guys he's facing, I wouldn't hate. It's just kind of, like I said, I feel like it all really depends on what they're doing with him and like what the end goal is. So, I mean, if he's going for the belt at WrestleMania, he'd have to eventually lose it. But if not, I feel like you said, he could just hold it through Mania.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different options there. I don't think he loses it back to Jey Uso, for example. But I think it is worth considering, like you said, Braun Breaker and Gunther as a World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania. There's any number of different directions they can go in with Gunther for Mania, and Braun Breaker is one of them. They teased it a couple of months ago, and it didn't really go anywhere, but that might have been they've done that before. And years ago, in years past, they would have people kind of interact and kind of plant the seeds for a future match that would almost always happen at WrestleMania itself. It's just that long-term WrestleMania booking, so I could totally see that. I don't think he loses the belt here, but it is something worth considering for down the road for sure, as far as if Breaker loses that belt in the coming months to set up him and Gunther for WrestleMania. Maybe he wins the Royal Rumble as Intercontinental Champion. I mean, could you see that as a possibility?
I would hate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's never been done before. I don't think anyone's ever won the Rumble as IC Champion.
No, I don't think so either.
It'd be a history-making moment. Gunther, speaking of whom, versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship on Saturday. This is Gunther's first pay-per-view title defense since, I think, Bash in Berlin, because he didn't defend at Bad Blood. He wasn't at Bad, or he was at Bad Blood, but he didn't defend the championship on that show. And that Crown Jewel, he lost to Cody in a non-title match, that champion versus champion match. So this is a rematch from SummerSlam. They've had a pretty basic feud since they rekindled the rivalry in the last couple of weeks. Who do you see going over here? Is it Gunther or is it Damian Priest? Who walks out of Survivor Series, the World Heavyweight Champion?
Yeah, I think the belt stays on Gunther. I just don't see him losing it till Mania time. I like Priest. I feel like after he loses to Gunther here, I'm not sure exactly what you do with him. I don't know if they pick up him and Finn again. I hope not. But I really don't know what to do with him at this point. So I think Gunther wins. Just kind of more interested in what they do with Priest after he loses here. Yeah,
no thanks on Finn and Damian again. I could totally see that as well. I really don't want to see that again. It was fine, but like Finn lost clean. They haven't interacted since. There's no reason to is he just going to keep going back to the same two feuds with Gunther and Finn, until WrestleMania for Priest? And even then, what do you do with them at WrestleMania? So I would hope not. Hopefully they have something else in mind, but I like that we're getting the match. He felt cheated out of the championship at SummerSlam. He did get cheated out of the championship at SummerSlam, so Gunther can hopefully beat him clean here. I just don't know where you go with him from there. Maybe a third match at the Saturday night's main event show, because that was originally the idea, reportedly, was to do the match on that show. So maybe they run it back in like a New York street fight, and Gunther wins decisively on that show, and there's controversy ending this match. I don't know, but I also have Gunther emerging victorious, still the World Heavyweight Champion. So our first of two WarGames matches, and we'll get into the developments from the last week as we discuss each one. Women's WarGames, which should be a traditional Survivor Series elimination match, but fuck me, I guess. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley, who they confirmed to be the fifth member on Raw this week, or after Raw, taking on Liv Morgan. She's on the opposite team. Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, and Raquel Rodriguez. So Bayley is the fifth member. She's replacing Jade Cargill, who got attacked on SmackDown. So before we even get to the prediction, who attacked Jade, do you think? What was it? Bayley? Could have been Naomi? Was it Bianca? Who was in the ring at that point? Maybe she hired someone to do it. What prompted... I know Jade got legitimately injured, apparently, and she might have to drop. They might have to vacate the tag titles, which would make the most sense. But was Bayley behind the attack? What are your thoughts on the angle?
I mean, I think the angle's done well. It kind of gave me like Batista, like when Kane and Big Show chokeslammed Batista on the windshield, Survivor Series 2005. It was just she was just like laid out. I mean, it was
yeah,
very well done. I mean, she looked pretty much almost dead. Yeah, I mean, I think all signs point to Bayley. I mean, it'd be like a red herring if it was like Bianca, because technically she was in the ring at the time. But like I said, maybe I don't really know why, but maybe she hired someone to attack her teammate. I mean. Be like Triple H, Shawn Michaels vibes from 2002. Wouldn't really make too much sense. I mean, I think it's pointing to Bayley. I mean, I like Bayley. I feel like she's been kind of just there as a babyface. I think she's just a way better heel. So maybe that's what we're getting. Not like I'm looking for a Bayley Jade Cargill feud anytime soon, but could be Naomi. I feel like Naomi could be like an outlier. Like she's just like the third wheel out of Bianca and Jade. So maybe she's trying to get over on her. I think Naomi be more interesting. So go Naomi.
And Naomi would also make sense because Jade was supposed to be in a match. I think maybe they weren't in the same match, but as part of this United States Championship tournament, I mean, taking Jade out of the equation kind of increases Naomi's chances of winning the entire thing, right? So, I mean, that could also be a reason as to why she attacked Jade. No,
yeah. Like I said, I feel like she attacked her there, and like I said, I feel like she kind of does feel like the third wheel out of her, Bianca, and Jade. So kind of like getting over, like I said, maybe easing her path to win the United States title. I mean, it kind of makes sense there. Like I said, I feel like they're kind of trying to throw you like Bayley's the one, but I think sneakily it could be Naomi.
And if nothing else, it would switch up the tired glow shtick that she's been doing for like the last decade. So, finally do something different. And I know it's over and people like it. And I like Naomi, but she's been doing the glow stuff for so long now. I think switching it up would be nice. And watch her turn heel and she's still doing the glow shit, but just as a heel. I wouldn't be shocked. But, something to consider there. I could totally see it being Naomi. I think that would be the most intriguing direction to go in my opinion. But of this women's WarGames match, is it Team Rhea or is it Team Liv coming out on top here?
Oof. It's a tough one. I feel like either team could win. I feel like I'm going to say the baby faces win the men's, so I'll say the heels win the women's.
Okay. All right. Fine prediction. I'm going to go Team Rhea here, just because I think they can have her pin Liv and earn another opportunity at the title. I don't really want to see the feud continue. I know it's probably going to continue. Do you think that feud goes through Mania, or do they stretch out the storyline? No. They got to end it before then, right? They have to.
No moss.
Yeah, no. You preach. I fucking agree. Men's WarGames match, which I assume is the main event. Roman Reigns, the Usos, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk. Not Seth Rollins, we found out on SmackDown last week. Taking on the new Bloodlines, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and their partner, or Jacob Fatu as well, and their partner, Bronson Reed. So a pretty stacked matchup here for men's WarGames. Again, before we even get into the prediction for the match itself, I sat here a week ago and I told you I figured we both assumed it would be Seth Rollins. He's going to sit here and call Roman Reigns a tyrant and then come around to being like, you know what, I do want to join WarGames just because Bronson Reed's involved, which would have been so fucking lazy and just stupid and make no sense. And I'm glad, you know what, they did not do that. As far as Punk not making sense, listen, he fucking hates Roman Reigns too. But he did it as a favor to Paul Heyman and to also spite Seth Rollins. I said that the Paul Heyman thing I didn't really mention, but the Seth Rollins thing I did. They did go in that direction. I'm totally down for this. A lot of different directions you can go in stemming from this as well. So your thoughts on Punk being revealed as the fifth and final man of Team OG Bloodline for WarGames?
It was better than Rollins joining. Like I said, not that it made a ton of sense, but I said favor to Heyman, kind of stick it to Rollins. Like, I'm going to do it even though I hate Roman Reigns, or like at least I'm man enough to stick. Like, whatever. Like, I feel like he could stick it to Rollins, favor for Heyman. Place went nuts. I thought it was a nice little swerve because Rollins saying he's a tyrant and then running back to him would have looked dumb.
Yeah, would have looked very dumb. Could you see stemming from this tension being teased between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, with Paul Heyman being caught in the middle? Maybe not imminently, because I think Punk and Rollins obviously is the feud for WrestleMania. But for down the road, maybe a Punk and Roman Reigns feud with Paul Heyman caught in the middle.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I think that would make a lot of sense, and it would be a lot of fun as well. But for the actual match itself, Team OG Bloodline or Team New Bloodline, have your thoughts changed, or is it still, which team are you picking here?
The OG Bloodline win.
All right, babyface win here, and is that it for Roman and Solo, or do you think that, I think this has got to continue right until we get Roman and Solo, hopefully not at WrestleMania.
Kid's so afraid of that match. I think it's going to continue. I don't think we need to push out all the way to Mania, but I guess if you don't, then I don't really know what else you do with Roman at this point. But I mean, I think it's going to continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the baby faces go over in both WarGames matches. I think it would make more sense if they did have the heels go over with the women and the baby faces go over with the men. But I think they're just going to have both babyface teams go over if they want to continue Rhea and Liv, and they want to have Roman get one over on Solo after losing a crown jewel, and they have Punk on their side. I just feel like that would be the outcome that makes sense. But either way, I think it's going to be a good show coming up on Saturday. We'll talk all about it next week here on the show, reviewing Survivor Series, predicting NXT Deadline for the following weekend. But I also do have to announce this coming up on Monday. I mentioned this earlier, I believe. I thought I did. But starting on Monday, December 2nd, you can start your votes. Cast your votes, Mr. Marceau, in the 2024 WWE AEW Year in Review Awards. Polls open up on Monday morning, and we're going to be talking all about the results of said polls, as we always do, at the end of the year. I think the final Thursday of the year is December 26th or 27th. It's right after Christmas, so we'll speak again then as far as the results are concerned. But start casting your votes, Mr. Marceau, getting it in your brain as far as who you think the male wrestler of the year is and everything else.
I'm ready to stuff the ballot.
Stuff the ballot as you always do, Mr. Marceau. We'll stuff your stomach as well tomorrow on Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
See you later, man.
Join Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau every Thursday as they run down their weekly wrestling rants, offer expert analysis, host exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe today on all your favorite podcast platforms and never miss an episode of WrestleRant Radio.